Okay, so hopefully you can see we've done some nice mottling and everything else underneath. So the reason, or the way we've done that, if we show you on the top, obviously we've got that nice mottling on the go already, which is our foundation and our base. So what we've got in here is just the original H309 colour. Okay, and what we're going to do, we're literally going to pop round all the areas that are green with this darker green, because it's got that sort of bronzy green colour now that we've put down to fade it down. So now we can go around. So what we want to do is follow panel lines to start with, big panel lines that is. Okay, and then what we're going to start doing then is picking out, and by picking out we mean we're going after the details to try and bring it all to life. So you've got your sort of your standard type area on there. Then what we're going to do is literally just going to pop in some little L shapes, some little touchings around things, but don't make them too precise. If you're going to focus too heavy, then it won't work. You need it to be a slightly faded in pattern. Okay, so if you're not sure, just move it off to somewhere else, and we're just trying to make touch-ins and lines and everything else like that. So you might be able to see, perhaps this camera might be better, you can get them in just like that. So what we're going to do now is just popping around with this colour. The easiest one to see this will be when I come in with the darker colour to go in to do this black work, which we're actually going to come in with a very dark black grey next, just like that. But we're trying to pop in little panel lines, because it'll break up this monotonous colour that's already been faded in a little bit. And as I said, this is sort of post shading, but because it's thin paint, you don't have to worry too much. It's not like you were going to come in and just nail down a colour now, but hopefully as I manoeuvre it all around, you'll see colours starting to jump through. What I'm going to do, I'm going to put some little lines going downwards, some little flick marks across it, just sort of to break it all up. But hopefully you can see it coming through now. So now we'll start to add patches and touch-ins and damp marks. 9 times out of 10 when you see an aircraft and it's got these types of marks, it's normally where the paint is just a little bit damp. So we're just going to help increase these areas. It's one of those ones, it's very easy to overdo this. As soon as you start to think, I don't know, we're getting a bit heavy here, move off, okay? And that is the secret to this one. As soon as you start to think, I don't know, then go off, go somewhere else completely. Okay? So, as I said, it's a multi-surface type one, and to be honest, this is the hardest one you can do on camo. On greys, this is so much easier, and with the upcoming builds, we've got some more modern jets. We'll do this type of work to it, and you'll be able to see in those that it's really straightforward. But when you've got multiple greens on here, it's quite hard to go along and make these look worn evenly, if you like, because obviously you're dealing with different greens and blacks. When it's greys, you just shoot down the grey colour and then work back through them. So they're all going to be the same type of greys, but unfortunately in here it's not. The only trouble we'll have is obviously with the black. You've got to get the black to not go over any of this green. But just use your imagination. Okay. Little flick marks always work well. Just drag them right the way over. They'll fade in, don't worry too much about them. These are great for putting across, just like that. But as you can see now, it's starting to get that sort of, mottled, heavy-duty look to it. The tail is one of those strange areas because it doesn't have that much, but you want to put enough in to notice what's going on. But again, the paint is literally just over a 50-50 mix. It's probably 70% thinners to paint, but we're still very high air pressure. We're probably around about 35 psi here, maxed out. I'm hardly pulling any paint into this. And then literally we just work our way around, following panel lines, as you're saying, and then do little L shapes, little R shapes, little circles, cubes, things like that as we move around here, just to give it that dead look to the paintwork. Little reverse T's as well, they do quite a nice pattern. Then okay, down this area down the back here, we've got this one. What we want to do is sort of accentuate that ribbing effect it's got. So what we're going to do is just put in a series of vertical lines, just following it, and then literally just striking back and forth. And then we can pop around some of the hatch area perhaps. Okay, it's always a bit tricky with these tails. Same thing. Just try and keep it to the angles which are easiest for you. You know, don't work against the model. Just try and keep it so it's good angles that you can work with. It's easier to get to. A lot of these angles you see me spraying this are a little bit tricky because I would rather have them another way. But for you guys to see it properly, it's easier for me to manoeuvre for you, but you might want to turn this upside down literally to do this. But you say there's a good example there as I was rabbiting on. As I say, you've got the tail, all this tail section done, all this modelling done, and as you catch it in the light you'll see different areas of it. But as I say, once we get in with the black and we start lightening the black work up, will be a lot nicer, and obviously we've got to do around this front, so I'll just carry on doing the same. Okay, so that is all the green work all done. Hopefully you can see now, we get too much glare off the lights hopefully, but as you can see it's got that nice motley type look to it and everything else that we were after. Dulled it down, killed it down. We said multi-stage, don't think you're going to do this in one pass. That's had what, 5 coats now on there, and we've still got to do the grey work. So what I'm going to do, clean up just a little bit for the moment because we get a bit inundated with old paint pots and everything. Clear some work surface as well. Don't try and destroy the model, and then we can get going with some of this black work to finish off the paint work. Okay, so going in with the black. So what we've actually done, we've made a bit of a change here. We've got some German grey XF63, okay, and then what we're actually going to do, added 50% black to that, which gets us something like in here. So now what we're going to do is go around and lighten up the black work. Then we can come back with a tyre colour to do the mottling and tie-in effects and everything we've done already. So what we'll do, we'll start on the outer one. So we're just lightly blowing in, like we did before, and improving the camo pattern, because obviously we've lost a little bit of sharpness from it by doing all this running around. So this way we can put this back in a little. Just round like that, and then as I said, we got big old lines we can go around and blow in. As I said, we're going to come back with darker colours. So this is really just a blow it all in type of thing, just to lighten it up. Any camo work that looks a little bit iffy we can take care of and backfill, colour in, what is ever required. Just like this, but this is a nicer colour because when you come in with the dark stuff it will look just like this type of dark stuff, but it's a lot nicer to going on and spraying down. That's going to go around each one. Bump into here. Change the flow of the camo pattern. Just because you can. Okay, so we're just going to carry it on now, doing exactly the same. Okay, so last bit up is just to distress the black. Now we've got a little bit on the go already, but what we've actually done here, we've got tipped out the grey colour, added thinners and a little bit of black, so it's not quite pure black. But what we want to do is roughly, although not quite as strong, because when you look at the references it doesn't seem to have it quite as strong, but certain areas that do is up here on the tail. So what we're going to do is just follow the panel lines. Seems to have multiple lines like this in it. So we're just following and then just around here on the tail we're just going to put in some little Tetris squiggles just to give it a break up, as you can see on here. Let's give it little squiggly things just to break it up. So you're just going to do the little lines just down here so it looks like stress marks. Just put some squiggles in. And that way it looks just like that. So what we can do is, we're pretty much all everywhere. So we're just going to pop around panel lines and everything else like that, just to eke in some little differences. Okay, so we just get that same type of effect all the way over. So it just has that air of fadedness. And also, as I said, it's a big old lump this, and it will help to break it up. Again, some little touch-in marks, Tetris marks, whatever you want to call them. And it will just help give that illusion of broken it down a little bit. So just do. And again, it's all about an illusion. So we're just going to put some curves down so it just accentuates it all. And Keeps it all nice. And then if you think it's looking a little bit too uniform, we'll just get in there and break these up a bit. Little Tetris things going on in here still. So it's really tricky holding and spraying at the same time, and you want to avoid this if you can. It's just I'm literally doing this just for speed, but in the ideal world you wouldn't. So we're just going to carry on doing all of these around here, just finishing them off. On here needs a little bit, it's a bit plain, a bit dull. Okay, then once we're done here, what we're going to do is give this a coat of gloss just to protect some of this paintwork, because it's quite nice how we want it now, and I don't want to mess around with it too much. So what we'll do is we're going to get a coat of clear gloss onto this, protect it all down, then we can start going around masking up, because we've got to do the boots on this, we've got the de-icing boots to go on, we've got various metal areas and the exhaust and things like that, so we can get them all painted up, and obviously we've got to do the nose as well, and all those little things. Okay, so it's all nicely dry now, and we've had a look around and we're really happy with how it's all looking and everything else like that. And we say we've got that nice modelling going on absolutely everywhere, weathered in, really what we're looking for. So what we want to do now is protect that from everything else, because obviously we want to do lots of masking now for various things, so it just makes things a lot easier. So for that we're going to use good old-fashioned clear, Johnson's Clear, and I've got some already in a bottle here. Okay, so we're going to be shooting this high air pressure, basically around about sort of 30 to 35 psi. And all we're going to do is put down a light coat. So obviously it will darken everything, okay, but we can lighten it back up when we put a flat coat over the top. So we're just going to gently build up layers. But what this does, it gives us a nice barrier, so it's not going to wear through. Obviously acrylic paint, sometimes it's not very handleable, but you can come along and literally just wear through it with just a little bit of handling. So this will take care of it. The other thing obviously this does is prepare decals, everything else like that, because it'll make a nicer, glossier surface for those types of things. Just going round. And we've still got quite a bit of work to do on this, doing all these metal areas, exhausts and things like that. So it's still got a lot of handling to go through. As we work our way around. As I say, there's nothing special about this, it's just stick it down quick. Doesn't take long to dry this, so don't worry too much about it. And it's got very large de-icing boots on this, on the front, which are going to cover a lot of stuff up. Around these areas. Okay, so we've got to be just a little bit careful how we put this down. So what we're going to do is use one of those at the back, one of these at the front, and then we can just sit it like so. One at the rear, one to the front. That way it stops it sitting down. Back to the cargo doors, that way we can mask these up with ease. We've still got to do the main gear doors and things like that. So that's just something we can do as we move on, and perhaps keep the paint back for little touch-ups, things we need to do. Or you could have done them now. It's just personal preference on whichever way you want to do these things. Just give these hot sides. So there we go. So what we're going to do now is let this dry off for a couple of hours, and then come back and do all the black work and the metal work and everything like that. Okay, so this has been dry now. To be honest, a couple of days. I had a little bit of a break from this one. So what we can do now is actually go round and mask up for the de-icing boots. Now, de-icing boots are lumps of rubber, which are like airbags. They inflate slightly, breaks the ice off that's trying to build up on the wings. So what we can do, we can just take, we got here some Tamiya tape. Checking the references, pretty easy, goes to the end and you can see them go along these particular wing lines down here. The rear one's a little bit more tricky and you've got one down the top, but they don't go on this inside area. It looks like perhaps there could be a boot there, but it's certainly not on the instructions. So it's just this outer one. So what we're going to use is just come along, pop that down. Now you could do these first, but I just tend to find they're a bit easier. The other thing as well with these, if you make a little tab, just like that, it makes them so much easier to get off. So we're just going to come in like that. I'm happy how that is off the edge, and we're just going to pop one along the edge as well. Just like so. So what we're going to do, we're just going to mask up now. We're going to put all of these. So we've got the one on the top, and we've got another one just down here. And it's going to go all the way across into there. Okay, now there's a little gap, just that rear one, so you might want to use a thinner bit of tape for that. So actually what we've got here, whoops, is the Jammy Dog tapes. There's a slightly thicker one here, which these are great because they're nice and thin, they bend very easily, but also they come in very handy sizes for things like this. So what we can do, we can just pop that down there. Okay, and then we can get hold of it, wrap it underneath to the underside one. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is just go around everywhere, just mask these all up, okay, then we can get back and then obviously spray the de-icing boots in. Okay, so there we go, we're all masked up. It's one of those things with de-icing boots, you use a load of Tamiya tape or good quality tape to do quite a small job. It always seems a bit of a waste, but it's one of those areas where, you know, when you're putting tape down on top of paint work and things like that, even though we've got a protective coat, if you use a cheaper tape, you might get bleed through. And then if you're going to get bleed through, the last thing you want to do is you peel it off and peel paint with it. So if you ever have that thing where you're peeling off and demasking and you end up sort of taking paint with it and everything else, normally it tends to be the cheaper paint, things like that, and bleed through. The other thing as well, when you're doing it, we're almost out of tape here. I explain it in a lot of them, but when you've got a piece, okay, run it across the back of your hand, give it a good rub down, peel it off, back down again, and then do it. And if you feel it, it's half as tacky, then go along and push it down and everything else like that. That way, when you come to peel it off, it will just come away. The grease on your hand will neutralise a lot of the stickiness onto it and will stop the tear factor and the pulling and everything else. Also, when you do it, don't just pop it on and then rip it off really quick. Just take your time, gently peeling off and things like that. So, de-icing boots. Because it's rubber, we're going to be using the tyre paint again. So we're just going to give this a good old shake up because it's been stood around a couple of days. Okay, we're going to spray it neat because we want it to be a really dead flat finish. Because it's rubber, it will have that sort of, you know, very flat look to it. So what we'll do now, we're just going to pour this neat into the colour cup, not too much. Now, be careful of your overspray, where you're spraying and everything else like that, because you don't want to be in a situation where you're putting dusty shadows over everything. So we just check our flow. Okay, so we're going to be shooting down, always away from the model. And obviously you've got some areas that are black, but it's important to make sure you do them. And then, let's see, it's a nice high air pressure, so it should dry quite quickly. So we just like that, and then if we flip over, just do the underside down here. And so when it's looking wet, just be careful. And then when you're coming in, make sure you've got the leading edges all painted nicely. So one of the passes, just make as a head-on pass. And just continue down these rear ones, like so. On the back. Just keep building it up gently. Okay, and as we were saying, if it's looking wet, we're just going to just building as we go through. Just like so. And same on the other side. Okay, so we're all dry now, so what we can have is a bit of an unveiling and see how we look. So just carefully tug round. And when you're doing it, just be careful you don't scratch up the paintwork as you make a pass. That's why it's quite nice to have tabs that you can pull that will just pop off. If you haven't, just do a sort of squeezing motion. You can see you get a little glue mark and you can give it a rub to get rid of it. And these will hopefully be the de-icing boots. That's one. And say these aren't going to stand out too much because we've got black on the model itself, but hopefully it'll be enough to show. Just got little ones around here and on here. Okay, round the nose section. Okay, as you can see, this is how we've got those actually in there, those various little ones on there. So just grab one of these. And hopefully it will allow to pull around. Again, trying to grab these. So that's come out really nice. And don't forget, it's going to have a flat coat yet. So when this has a flat coat, it will really knock it all down. But as you can see, that's all painted up, and you can hopefully see on these areas in here. Obviously you've got the light glaring a little bit, but you can see it's got it all nicely on. The mottling is going to show through. So what we're going to do now, we'll get these all off, have a good look round and check and everything else like that. We can then, if you wanted to, give it another coat of gloss just for deckling, or if you're looking like you're quite happy, it's quite a nice smooth finish on it. Our next thing we can do is to go up to get on with deckling, get the decals on, then we can give it washes, flat coats, things like that, install the windows and start to really bring it together.